I left that morning with nothing more than my fishing rod and a lunchbox. I never imagined I would return to find my clothes, my memories, and every single thing I owned lying inside black garbage bags on the curb. My son's wife looked me in the eyes and said, "We do not need you anymore. Go live at the dump." My own son stood behind her without saying a word. I smiled quietly, picked up my phone, and made one call. 3 days later, the same people who threw me away were desperately searching for me across the country. They were too late. Stay until the end, because one forgotten document changed every single life forever. I had lived in that house for nearly 30 years. Every nail in the wall, every tree in the backyard, and every room carried memories of my late wife. After she passed away, I continued living with my son because he insisted that families should stay together. At first, everything was peaceful. Then my son married a woman named Jessica. She smiled in front of everyone, but behind closed doors, she treated me like an unwanted guest. Little by little, she removed me from family dinners. She complained about my habits. She said I was too old to slow and took up too much space. My son always avoided arguments. Instead of defending me, he stayed silent. Silence slowly became betrayal. Fishing was the only thing that gave me peace. Every Saturday morning, I drove to the lake where I had spent countless mornings with my late wife. She always believed difficult days never lasted forever. That Saturday, I stayed longer than usual. The weather was beautiful. I caught to fish and smiled for the first time in weeks. I had no idea that while I was sitting beside the lake, my entire life was being thrown into garbage bags. When I returned, my old chair was broken. My clothes were scattered across the driveway. Family photographs were mixed with broken dishes and trash. Jessica folded her arms and looked directly at me. She said, "We cleaned the house. We do not need you anymore. Go somewhere else." I looked at my son. He lowered his head and said nothing. At that moment, I realized I had already lost my family long before I lost my home. I quietly picked up one small box that contained my wife's wedding ring, her letters, and an old folder. Then I smiled. Jessica laughed because she thought I had finally accepted defeat. Instead, I made one phone call. The person on the other side answered immediately. "Everything is ready, sir." I replied, "Thank you. Start today." Without another word, I walked away. Jessica shouted that I would never survive without them. She had no idea the house they lived in had never truly belonged to my son. Years earlier, my wife and I had placed the property inside a family trust with very specific conditions. Those conditions protected the home from anyone who abused or abandoned its original owners. The lawyer had warned me never to reveal it unless absolutely necessary. That day had finally arrived. On Monday morning, legal notices arrived. By Tuesday afternoon, my son received a call from the attorney. The trust had been activated. Because of documented elder abuse and forced eviction, all occupancy rights were suspended pending court review. Jessica laughed at first. Then the bank froze the refinancing process they had secretly started. Their dream renovation collapsed overnight. By Wednesday, they realized they could lose everything. That was the day they started calling me. Hundreds of missed calls, voice messages, apologies, promises. They drove to every fishing lake we had ever visited. They asked relatives, friends, neighbors, and old coworkers. Nobody knew where I was, because I was finally somewhere I had not been in years. At peace, I had rented a quiet cabin near another lake. Every morning, I watched the sunrise without hearing complaints or insults. For the first time since my wife passed away, I felt free. Several days later, the lawyer called. He said they wanted one final meeting. I agreed. When they entered the office, Jessica immediately began crying. She claimed she never meant to hurt me. My son finally spoke. "Dad, I made the biggest mistake of my life." I listened quietly. Then I opened a small box I had saved from the trash. Inside were my wife's letters. One letter was addressed to our son. She had written it years before she passed away. The letter said, "Take care of your father the same way he took care of us. Never allow money, pride, or anyone else to destroy your family." My son broke down crying. Jessica could not even look at me. The attorney placed one final document on the table. The trust could only be restored if I freely chose forgiveness. No one could force me. I remained silent for several moments. Then I said, "A house can be repaired. Broken trust takes much longer." I decided not to punish my son forever, but I refused to return. The house would be sold. Part of the money would fund scholarships in my wife's memory. Another part would help elderly people abandoned by their own families. The remaining amount would secure my retirement with dignity. Months later, I bought a small lakeside home. It was simple, peaceful, and filled with photographs of happier times. Every Saturday, I went fishing, not because I wanted to escape, but because I had finally found freedom. Sometimes losing a house helps you find your true home. Strong ending. If someone truly values you, they will never wait until you are gone to appreciate your worth. Respect is more valuable than property. Loyalty is worth more than money. Never allow anyone to convince you that growing older means becoming disposable. Your dignity is something nobody has the right to throw away.